A $400 sleeping bag failed someone last winter. Temperatures dropped to 28 degrees, and the bag rated for 20 kept nothing out. That person spent $300 on that bag 6 months earlier. Bought it from REI with the full sales pitch about thermal ratings. Woke up shaking at 3 a.m. inside a tent that felt like a freezer. The bag was not defective. The problem was something REI never explains at the register. A sleeping bag alone is not a thermal system. It is half of one. The missing half costs $2 and fits in a shirt pocket. NASA developed it in 1964 to protect astronauts from temperature extremes in space. The camping industry has known about it for 60 years. The North Face never mentioned it. Marmot never included it in any product guide. REI never stocked it next to the $400 bags it sells every season, because the full thermal system ends the need to upgrade sleeping bags every 2 years. The global sleeping bag market hit $2.1 billion in 2019. That number depends on campers not knowing what is about to be shown here. The item is a Myar emergency blanket. $2 at any dollar store or hardware shop. The same reflective material NASA used to keep equipment alive in space. It reflects up to 90% of radiated body heat back to the source. Every sleeping bag bleeds heat through the bottom panel all night long. The ground pulls that heat away faster than the bag can generate it. That is the real reason people freeze, not the air temperature. The ground temperature is the killer. Ground at 40 degrees destroys a bag rated for 20 degrees from below. No sleeping pad fully stops that transfer without the reflective layer. The Mylar goes between the sleeping pad and the sleeping bag. Not on the outside of the bag, not draped over the tent, between the pad and the bag, creating a reflective thermal floor. Body heat radiates down, hits the Mylar, and bounces directly back up. The ground loses its ability to pull warmth away from the body. That single placement change turns a $400 bag into what it was supposed to be. It also turns a $30 bag into something that performs 3 price tiers above its rating. The full placement guide and exact sizing is in the description link. Get that before continuing. The details matter more than the concept. Most campers who try Mylar fail because of placement errors. Those errors get covered in full below. But first, why the industry buried this for 60 years? The North Face generated $3.7 billion in revenue in 2022. Marmot, Sea, To Summit, and Thermarest combined add another $800 million annually. Every one of those brands sells products that become unnecessary with a $2 Mylar layer. Field researchers documented the reflective ground layer method in the 1960s. Mountaineering clubs in Europe were using it informally by 1971. It never made it into mainstream camping retail, because mainstream camping retail is built on selling upgrades, not solutions. The sleeping bag upgrade cycle runs every 2 to 3 years for regular campers. A new bag every 3 years at $300 average. That is $100 per year per customer. Mylar breaks that cycle permanently. One blanket lasts multiple seasons. Total cost, $2. That is the math the industry cannot survive if it becomes common knowledge. The full off-grid survival vault in the description has the complete thermal system. Exact Mylar dimensions by body size. Full layering sequence for different temperature ranges. Placement checklist for tents, hammocks, and vehicle setups. Everything the gear brands never published, documented in one place. Get it now before continuing. The next section covers the 4 placement mistakes that make Mylar fail. Most people make at least 2 of them the first time. Mistake 1 starts before the tent is even pitched. Ground assessment determines whether the Mylar layer works or gets neutralized. Wet ground conducts cold faster than dry ground by a factor of 4. Mylar reflects radiant heat. It does not stop conductive cold from saturated soil. Pitching on wet ground without a vapor barrier underneath the pad defeats the system. The vapor barrier goes below the pad. Mylar goes above it. Sleeping bag goes on top. 3 layers, specific order, each one doing a different job. Most campers skip the vapor barrier because no one told them it was part of the system. That omission costs them the result every time. Wet ground plus Mylar without vapor barrier still produces a cold night. Then they blame the Mylar and go back to buying expensive bags. The industry wins again. Dry or elevated ground removes this variable entirely. 10 minutes of campsite selection before dark eliminates the biggest failure point. Slight slope away from water drainage, elevated ground away from low areas. Those 2 decisions protect the entire thermal system before setup begins. The full campsite assessment checklist is in the description link. Use it before the next trip. It changes the result before gear is even unpacked. Mistake 2 is the most common Mylar error across every camping forum online. People fold the Mylar shiny side down. The reflective surface needs to face up, toward the body, not toward the ground. Shiny side down reflects heat into the ground, which absorbs it instantly. Shiny side up sends heat back toward the sleeping bag and body. That single orientation error cuts the thermal benefit by 80%. It is the reason most people try Mylar once and call it useless. It is not useless. It was installed backwards. The North Face does not explain this because the North Face wants the next bag sale. Thermarest does not mention it because Thermarest sells $180 sleeping pads. A $2 Mylar blanket installed correctly outperforms both in heat retention overnight, not in cushioning, not in moisture management, in heat reflection specifically. That is the one job that determines whether a person freezes or sleeps through the night. Mistake 3 is sizing. Standard emergency Mylar blankets are 52 by 84 inches. That covers a sleeping bag, but leaves gaps at the shoulders and feet. Cold air enters through any uncovered edge and kills the thermal pocket. The Mylar needs to extend at least 6 inches beyond the bag on every side. For most adults, that means either 2 standard blankets overlapped or one XL version. 2 standard blankets costs $4 total, still less than 1% of what REI charges for a bag upgrade. The overlap goes shiny side up on both layers, secured with 2 small pieces of tape at the center seam so they do not shift overnight. No shifting means no gaps. No gaps means no cold entry points. The thermal pocket stays sealed from shoulder to foot all night. This is the version that actually works, and no brand has ever documented it publicly. The complete sizing guide by height and shoulder width is in the description vault. Get the exact dimensions before the next cold night. Guessing costs the result. Mistake 4 is noise management. Mylar crinkles with every movement. For light sleepers, that noise disrupts sleep every time position changes. The fix is a thin fleece layer between the Mylar and the sleeping bag exterior. Fleece dampens the crinkling without blocking heat reflection. $1 fleece remnant from any fabric store solves the only real comfort complaint. Total system cost, $3 maximum. That $3 system outperforms sleeping bag upgrades costing 10 to 40 times more. In pure heat retention per dollar spent, nothing in the camping gear market competes. This is what 60 years of industry suppression looks like when it finally surfaces. Not complicated, not proprietary, not requiring any special tools or skills. $2, correct orientation, right sizing, 1 fleece layer, 4 elements. One result, warm all night at any temperature the bag is rated for. Now the bag performs at its actual rating instead of well above it. Because the bag was always capable, the thermal floor was always missing. That missing floor is what the industry profits from every single season. Campers freezing at 3 a.m. blame the bag and buy the next model. The bag was never the problem. The ground was always pulling the heat out faster than the bag could hold it. Mylar stops that pull completely when installed correctly. Every cold night before this was preventable. Every bag upgrade purchased because of freezing was unnecessary. That is not an accident. That is a 60-year-old business model. The off-grid survival vault in the description documents the complete system. Exact Mylar dimensions by body size and temperature range, full layering sequence for 3 season and winter conditions, vapor barrier placement guide for wet ground scenarios, fleece dampening method with exact fabric weights that work, campsite assessment checklist for ground selection before dark. Everything required to never freeze inside a tent again, regardless of bag price. The link is in the description below this video. 1 click, free access. Every sleeping bag already owned performs better starting tonight. No upgrade, no new purchase, no more money into a system designed to keep taking it. $2 ends that cycle permanently. The link is below. Get it before the next cold night makes this urgent instead of smart.